Utah death row inmate making national headlines today as the U.S. Supreme Court announced it won't reimpose the death sentence for Douglas Lovell.
Lovell was convicted of killing Joyce Yost in 1985, a case covered in detail by Dave Cawley in the KSL Cold podcast Season 2, Justice for Joyce. Dave joins us now in studio, and to break all of this down as far as this decision, kind of walk us through what impact this has.
I mean, it's difficult to break something down that's been 40 years in the making.
Right.
But what we're looking at is a crime that took place back in 1985. This was started with the sexual assault of Joyce Yost, abduction from her home in South Ogden, and then her eventual murder a few months later by a man named Doug Lovell, trying to prevent her from testifying against him at trial. Joyce Yost's body has never been found. Lovell pleaded guilty to this crime. In 1993, he was sentenced to death. He fought for years to get off death row, and in 2015, he actually stood trial. Because his guilt was already established, there was no question about whether or not he committed the crime. It was all a matter of whether he was going to have a jury sentence him to life with the chance for parole or the death penalty. That jury gave him death. There was a question that came up on appeal as to whether or not religion was an influence, improper influence in that trial. That went to the Utah Supreme Court. They vacated Doug Lovell's death sentence.
Okay.
And the Utah Attorney General's office was asking the U.S. Supreme Court to step in and reimpose it.
Relook at it.
And the Supreme Court of the United States said, we're not going to look at it.
Okay, so the conviction stands. That's not what's in question here. Basically, they say, okay, the death sentence has been overturned. That stands. Now what happens?
So what happens is this goes back to Utah's district court. The judge that originally heard this trial back in 2015 is going to have to seat a new jury to answer the question, just the one question of will
Sentencing.
Doug get life with a chance for parole or death?
Okay, you've been in contact with the family of Joyce Yost today. I can't imagine this has been easy for them to hear this. This has been ongoing for decades.
Joyce has two children, a son, Greg, and a daughter, Kim. And they have, for decades, wanted to see Doug Lovell put to death. They are frustrated, extremely frustrated, and they feel like they've been just dragged through the ringer through the criminal justice system. And this is the latest of just another one of those kind of kicks to the gut for the family.
Okay, well,
heartbreaking
Dave,
to
we
hear
appreciate your efforts on this. This is a case you have been following for years, of course, as well with the Cold Podcast. If you haven't been able to listen to that full podcast, we encourage you to do that. Dave, thank you for stepping in today and giving us your take on what's been going on and sharing the family's insight with us as well.
You bet.
Thank you.
And we first brought you this news through a breaking news alert on our KSL Plus app. It is free to download. Also, make sure to check out the latest case details. Again, you can find that on KSL's Cold Podcast.
All right, we're